When every familiar option dissolves and the heart reaches a point where effort can no longer carry it forward, something deeper is invited to take place. What feels sealed is not always closed, and what appears unreachable is often waiting for the right orientation of the heart. The Qur'an reveals that openings do not always come through force or persistence, but through attunement. There is a surah that does not confront difficulty directly, yet causes it to loosen, not by changing circumstances first, but by restoring harmony between the heart and divine order. In this reflection, inspired by the inward path of Ibn Arabi, we explore how true openings emerge from unseen directions, at moments when the mind has exhausted its maps and the heart becomes ready to receive. When resistance dissolves, the way does not arrive with noise or sudden force. It emerges quietly, as if it had always been present but unseen. Resistance tightens perception, narrowing the field of possibility. When it loosens, vision widens without effort. The path appears not because something new was created, but because something unnecessary fell away. Resistance is often born from the belief that the mind must lead every movement. When outcomes are delayed, the mind pushes harder, assuming pressure will produce clarity. Yet this pressure creates blindness rather than direction. The more the mind insists, the more the way withdraws. Dissolution begins when insistence is released. The way appears when control is surrendered, not abandoned. Surrender is not collapse, it is alignment. When the heart stops forcing reality to obey its fears and desires, it becomes receptive. In receptivity, guidance flows naturally. The path reveals itself without explanation. Resistance also lives in expectation. The mind imagines how the opening should arrive and rejects all other forms. This expectation closes unseen doors. When expectation dissolves, surprise becomes possible. The way that appears is often different from what was imagined, yet more fitting. The dissolving of resistance requires patience with uncertainty. The mind resists not knowing because it fears instability. Yet uncertainty is the soil where guidance grows. When the heart remains present without demanding answers, direction begins to form. Stillness allows orientation. When resistance fades, the heart stops negotiating with reality. It no longer asks why things are blocked or delayed. Instead, it listens. This listening is subtle and quiet. In listening, the heart aligns with what is unfolding rather than opposing it. The way that appears is not always a dramatic change. Sometimes it is a shift in perception rather than circumstance. The heart sees meaning where it once saw obstruction. This change alters movement naturally. Action becomes gentle and precise. Resistance often comes from memory. Past disappointments teach the mind to guard itself. This guarding creates walls where doors once stood. When memory loosens its grip, possibility returns. The heart becomes available to the present moment. The way appears when the heart becomes lighter. Heavy hearts struggle to move because they carry too many conclusions. When conclusions dissolve, movement becomes effortless. The heart follows what feels aligned rather than what feels urgent. Dissolving resistance also softens time. The mind stops racing ahead and returns to now. In this return, clarity grows. The way reveals itself step by step, not all at once. Trust replaces planning. When resistance ends, fear loses authority. Fear thrives on control and prediction. Without resistance, fear weakens. The heart realizes it is supported even without certainty. This realization opens the path inwardly and outwardly. The way that appears is often simple. Resistance is complicated because it multiplies strategies. Simplicity emerges when effort aligns with wisdom. The heart recognizes what needs to be done without confusion. Action becomes natural. Dissolution does not mean passivity. It means right action arising from clarity rather than tension. The heart moves when movement is needed and rests when rest is required. This rhythm restores balance. The way unfolds through harmony. As resistance dissolves, gratitude quietly enters. Gratitude does not wait for outcomes. It acknowledges guidance already present. This acknowledgement strengthens trust. The heart walks the path with ease rather than strain. When the way appears, it feels familiar. It resonates deeply, as if remembered rather than discovered. The heart recognizes alignment instantly. There is no need for justification. Movement flows without resistance. The way was never hidden by circumstance. It was hidden by resistance. When resistance dissolves, the way appears effortlessly, guided by wisdom deeper than thought. The heart learns that openings respond not to force, but to alignment. The quiet shift that changes what was locked does not announce itself. It arrives without sound, without urgency, and without effort. Nothing dramatic seems to happen at first. The same walls remain, the same doors appear closed, yet something within begins to realign. This shift is not external movement, but an inner turning that alters how reality responds. What was locked often remains so because the heart approaches it from the wrong angle. Force meets resistance, and insistence hardens barriers. The quiet shift occurs when the heart releases its fixed posture. A subtle change in orientation allows what was rigid to soften. The lock responds not to pressure, but to alignment. This shift is quiet because it bypasses the mind's expectations. The mind seeks visible signs and immediate confirmation. When none appear, it assumes nothing has changed. Yet beneath this assumption, a rearrangement is taking place. Reality is being met differently, and this difference alters its response. The shift begins when the heart no longer demands entry. Demand carries tension, and tension reinforces closure. When the heart relaxes its demand, it becomes receptive. Receptivity invites openings that force cannot create. What was sealed begins to loosen without explanation. Often, this shift is triggered by acceptance. Acceptance does not mean agreement with difficulty. It means ceasing resistance to what is. In acceptance, the heart stops fighting the present moment. This cessation removes the pressure that kept things locked. The door responds to peace rather than struggle. The quiet shift also involves trust. Trust allows the heart to move without seeing the entire path. When trust replaces fear, rigidity dissolves. The lock was never physical. It was sustained by doubt. Trust interrupts this pattern and allows movement to resume. This change does not always open the door immediately. Sometimes it alters the relationship to the door. The heart no longer feels confined by it. This freedom itself is an opening. When confinement dissolves inwardly, the outer lock loses its power. The shift changes how time is experienced. Waiting no longer feels heavy. Time becomes a companion rather than an enemy. This change in experience signals that something fundamental has moved. What was locked by impatience loosens through patience. The mind often overlooks this shift because it expects transformation to be loud. Yet, divine movement is subtle. It does not compete with noise. It flows beneath it. The quiet shift works without drawing attention to itself. As the shift deepens, the heart becomes lighter. Weight was carried through resistance. When resistance ends, lightness appears. This lightness changes how the heart approaches everything. Locked situations feel less absolute and more fluid. The quiet shift also restores sensitivity. The heart begins to notice small openings that were previously ignored. Possibilities that once seemed irrelevant become meaningful. Awareness sharpens, not through effort, but through relaxation. This shift changes intention. Instead of seeking escape, the heart seeks alignment. This change in intention alters outcomes naturally. What was pursued before becomes unnecessary. The door opens from a direction that was not anticipated. The locked condition often protected the heart from moving prematurely. The shift signals readiness. When readiness appears, protection relaxes. The door opens not because effort increased, but because timing aligned. The quiet shift cannot be rushed. It unfolds according to inner readiness. When the heart is prepared, the change completes itself. Forcing only delays this process. Allowing accelerates it without effort. The lock no longer holds. The door opens or loses its relevance. Either way, movement resumes. The heart realizes that what changed was not the door, but its relationship to it. The quiet shift teaches that true openings respond to inner change. What was locked yields not to struggle, but to surrender. When alignment replaces resistance, the way forward reveals itself naturally. Divine words do not approach what is unmovable by confrontation. They do not press, argue, or force change. They arrive with precision, touching the root rather than the surface. What appears fixed is often held in place by unseen order. When divine words are received with presence, that order quietly rearranges itself. The unmovable does not resist because it is not attacked. It is realigned. What feels immovable to the mind is usually stabilized by habit and expectation. The mind assumes continuity because it measures reality by past patterns. Divine words bypass this assumption. They do not speak to habit, they speak to origin. When origin is addressed, form must respond. The rearrangement happens beneath appearance, where resistance cannot hide. Divine words work by restoring proportion. What the mind magnifies as absolute is returned to its proper scale. The unmovable loses its dominance when meaning is corrected. This correction is not intellectual, it is perceptual. The heart sees differently, and what was rigid becomes responsive. Order shifts without strain. These words do not instruct the world to change, they instruct the heart to listen. In listening, the heart aligns with a deeper rhythm. This rhythm governs movement beyond human effort. When alignment occurs, reality adjusts naturally. The unmovable was never independent. It was held in place by misalignment. Divine words carry timing within them. They do not act immediately unless readiness exists. When received prematurely, they rest quietly. When readiness appears, they activate without delay. The unmovable responds because the moment has arrived, not because pressure increased. Timing, not force, creates motion. The mind often seeks explanations for how change occurs. Divine words offer none. They operate beyond explanation. Their power lies in resonance, not logic. When resonance is felt, structure shifts. What was fixed becomes fluid because it recognizes its place within a larger order. Divine words reorder by dissolving fear. Fear stiffens reality. It contracts perception and locks possibility. When fear loosens, rigidity cannot hold. The unmovable depends on tension. Divine words release tension at its source. Movement follows without resistance. These words also re-establish trust. Trust changes how the heart stands within difficulty. When trust returns, the heart no longer pushes against what it fears. This non-opposition allows reality to reorganize. The unmovable responds to trust because trust removes the need for defense. Divine words speak to essence, not circumstance. Circumstances are temporary formations. Essence governs their shape. When essence is addressed, circumstances must rearrange themselves. The unmovable yields because it was never self-sustaining. It was upheld by misperception. The effect of divine words is often delayed in appearance, but immediate in alignment. The heart feels the shift before the world shows it. This inner confirmation sustains patience. The unmovable has already begun to change, even if the eye cannot yet witness it. These words do not multiply effort, they simplify direction. Complexity collapses when meaning is restored. The unmovable often stands because too many strategies are applied. Divine words remove excess. What remains moves easily because it is aligned. Divine words reorder by returning authority to the proper place. The mind relinquishes control, and guidance resumes its role. This return restores balance. The unmovable loses power when authority shifts from fear to wisdom. Order follows authority naturally. The heart that receives divine words becomes a point of clarity. From this clarity, action emerges without urgency. The unmovable does not require struggle to be displaced. It requires clarity to lose relevance. What no longer serves alignment dissolves quietly. Divine words do not announce victory. They establish the truth. When truth is established, outcomes adjust. The unmovable yields not because it is defeated, but because it no longer belongs where it stood. Reality reorganizes around truth effortlessly. Divine words reorder the unmovable by restoring harmony. They do not break what resists, they realign what is misplaced. When harmony returns, movement becomes natural. What once stood firm gives way, guided by an order deeper than force. The inner turning that unlocks the outer world begins quietly, without visible movement. It starts when attention shifts from managing events to observing the one who is experiencing them. This turning is not withdrawal from life, but a return to the center from which life is perceived. When the heart turns inward sincerely, it discovers a depth that was ignored while chasing outcomes. In that discovery, perception changes before circumstances do. The outer world responds not to effort, but to this change in orientation. This inner turning happens when the heart realizes that resistance has been exhausting its clarity. Instead of pushing against conditions, it softens its stance. Softening is not weakness, it is accuracy. The heart stops colliding with reality and begins to move with it. In this movement, tension dissolves, and understanding takes its place. What once felt obstructed begins to feel responsive. The outer world reflects inner posture more than intention. When the heart turns inward, it corrects its alignment with meaning. Actions that once felt forced become natural. Choices arise without confusion because perception has become clear. The world does not change its rules. It reveals its pathways. These pathways were always present, waiting for the heart to face the right direction. The inner turning also restores proportion. What was magnified as overwhelming shrinks back into its proper place. The heart no longer stands beneath circumstances as if crushed by them. It stands within awareness, where nothing is absolute except truth. From this position, the outer world loses its power to intimidate. Movement becomes possible again. This turning requires sincerity rather than technique. No method can substitute for genuine inward attention. The heart must be willing to see itself honestly, without defense or justification. In this honesty, veils begin to lift. What was hidden by assumption becomes visible. The outer world responds to this unveiling with openness. When the heart turns inward, it releases its dependence on prediction. It stops demanding to know what will happen next. This release creates space for guidance to emerge. Guidance does not shout. It reveals itself subtly. The outer world unlocks because the heart is no longer gripping it tightly. The inner turning also transforms waiting. Waiting is no longer experienced as suspension, but as presence. Time loses its weight when the heart is not leaning into the future. In this grounded state, opportunities appear naturally. The outer world opens not because time passed, but because readiness arrived. As the heart turns inward, it reconnects with stillness. Stillness is not inactivity, it is coherence. From coherence, action arises without fragmentation. The outer world recognizes this coherence and responds accordingly. Doors open because movement is now aligned with meaning. This turning also heals division within the self. When the heart faces inward, conflicting desires settle. Inner arguments lose their urgency. Clarity replaces inner noise. The outer world mirrors this unity by becoming less resistant and more navigable. The heart that has turned inward no longer seeks validation from results. Its confidence rests in alignment rather than success. This independence removes pressure from action. The outer world responds positively to actions free of desperation. What is unlocked is not only opportunity, but peace. The inner turning restores trust in perception. The heart begins to trust what it senses quietly, rather than what it fears loudly. This trust sharpens discernment. Decisions become simpler because they arise from clarity. The outer world aligns with this simplicity. When the heart turns inward, it remembers its role as witness rather than controller. Control tightens reality. Witnessing allows it to move. The outer world unlocks because it is no longer constrained by force. Movement resumes through cooperation rather than struggle. This turning also refines intention. Intention becomes less about gain and more about truth. Actions guided by truth carry their own momentum. The outer world opens because truth resonates beyond effort. What is false falls away naturally. The inner turning reveals that many locks were sustained by misunderstanding. Once understanding returns, the lock loses its function. The heart moves freely because it sees clearly. The outer world responds to clarity as water responds to gravity. Flow replaces friction. The inner turning does not change reality, it reveals it. What unlocks was never sealed against you. It was waiting for the heart to face its source. When the heart turns inward with sincerity, the outer world opens as a reflection of that return. Openings that emerge beyond human strategy arrive when the mind has reached the edge of its planning. Every calculation has been tried, every option examined, and still nothing moves. This is the moment where effort exhausts itself. What appears as failure is actually completion. The mind has done its part and can go no further. Only then does another order of movement become possible. Human strategy depends on prediction. It assumes the future can be shaped by arranging the present. Yet many openings exist outside prediction entirely. They belong to a wisdom that does not follow linear steps. When strategy pauses, this wisdom finds space to act. What emerges cannot be traced back to intention or design. These openings appear suddenly, but they were never rushed. They waited for the heart to stop interfering. Strategy often blocks what it tries to reach because it insists on a particular shape of outcome. When insistence dissolves, reality regains flexibility. The opening reveals itself without explanation. It feels unexpected because it was never imagined. Beyond strategy, guidance operates through alignment rather than control. Alignment does not ask where to go next. It asks how to stand now. When the heart stands correctly, movement happens on its own. The opening forms as a response to posture, not pressure. This is why it cannot be forced. The mind struggles to accept what it cannot trace. It wants to know how and why. Openings beyond strategy refuse to be justified. They simply occur. Their truth is felt rather than understood. Acceptance follows experience, not logic. These openings often contradict expectation. They come from directions the mind dismissed or overlooked. Strategy narrows vision by focusing on what seems practical. Beyond strategy, vision widens. Possibility returns to places once ignored. What was insignificant becomes central. Such openings carry ease rather than urgency. They do not demand immediate action. They invite participation. The heart recognizes them by the absence of strain. Movement feels natural, not compelled. This ease is a sign of alignment. Human strategy is built on fear of loss and desire for gain. Beyond strategy, fear loosens its grip. Desire softens into trust. In this softened state, the heart becomes receptive. Receptivity allows openings to appear without resistance. These openings do not announce permanence. They simply offer the next step. Strategy seeks guarantees. Guidance offers direction. The heart learns to move without securing the entire path. Each step reveals the next. Movement continues through trust. Often, the opening arrives after surrender, but surrender itself is not the cause. Surrender removes obstruction. What was blocked by effort flows once effort ends. The opening was always present, waiting for interference to cease. Beyond strategy, timing replaces urgency. Things unfold when readiness aligns, not when impatience demands. This timing feels precise, almost intimate. The heart senses that nothing could have happened earlier. The opening feels inevitable in hindsight. These openings reshape understanding of success. Success is no longer measured by achievement, but by harmony. The heart recognizes progress through peace rather than results. Movement feels guided rather than managed. Life begins to cooperate. Human strategy often isolates the self as the doer. Beyond strategy, the self becomes a participant. This shift reduces burden. Responsibility is shared with a wisdom larger than the mind. The opening carries support within it. Such openings do not eliminate effort. They redefine it. Effort becomes responsiveness rather than control. Action follows clarity, not anxiety. The heart moves when moved, rests when resting. Balance replaces struggle. Beyond strategy, mistakes lose their power. Nothing is wasted because guidance adapts continuously. The opening integrates past missteps into present direction. What seemed wrong becomes necessary. The path reveals coherence. Openings beyond human strategy teach a quiet truth. Life does not require constant management to unfold meaningfully. When the mind releases its grip, guidance resumes its role. The opening appears not because you found it, but because you were finally ready to receive it. Stillness invites what effort cannot, because effort often carries tension, and tension distorts perception. When the mind strains toward an outcome, it narrows its vision, and limits what it can receive. Stillness, by contrast, relaxes the inner field. It allows awareness to widen without demand. In this openness, guidance finds space to move. What could not enter through force enters through calm presence. Effort assumes that movement creates change. Stillness understands that alignment creates movement. When the heart becomes still, it stops colliding with reality. This non-collision removes friction. Without friction, flow resumes naturally. What effort tried to push into existence arrives on its own accord. Stillness invites clarity because it suspends reaction. Reaction is quick and habitual, while clarity is slow and precise. In stillness, the mind observes rather than responds. This observation reveals patterns that effort overlooked. Seeing replaces striving, and understanding replaces pressure. The heart often resists stillness because it fears loss of control. Effort gives the illusion of command. Stillness removes this illusion, but in doing so, restores trust. Trust allows the heart to rest within uncertainty. From this rest, direction emerges gently. The path becomes visible without being forced. Stillness also dissolves fear, which effort often amplifies. Fear tightens the body and the mind. Stillness loosens this grip. As fear releases, the heart becomes receptive again. What was blocked by anxiety becomes accessible through calm presence. What effort cannot achieve through repetition, stillness achieves through depth. Effort repeats the same motion, hoping for a different result. Stillness goes beneath repetition and touches the root. When the root is addressed, the surface adjusts automatically. Change occurs without struggle. Stillness invites timing rather than urgency. Urgency disrupts order by demanding immediate results. Timing respects readiness. In stillness, the heart senses when to move and when to wait. This sensitivity prevents premature action. Movement becomes accurate rather than excessive. In stillness, the mind reconnects with listening. Listening is a form of attention that effort often drowns out. Guidance speaks quietly. It cannot be heard when the mind is loud. Stillness lowers the volume enough for direction to be recognized. Effort often focuses on the outer world, trying to rearrange circumstances. Stillness works inwardly, restoring coherence. When coherence returns, circumstances respond naturally. The outer world mirrors the inner state. What seemed resistant becomes cooperative. Stillness does not mean inactivity. It means action arising from presence rather than compulsion. Actions taken from stillness carry precision. They are fewer, but more effective. Effort multiplies action. Stillness refines it. The heart learns through stillness that not all progress looks like motion. Some progress feels like settling. This settling strengthens the foundation. When movement resumes, it is stable. What effort rushed, stillness prepares. Stillness also removes the burden of comparison. Effort measures itself against others. Stillness returns attention to the present moment. In this return, the heart finds sufficiency. Contentment replaces striving. This contentment opens unseen doors. What effort seeks through planning, stillness receives through alignment. Alignment does not need strategy. It needs presence. When the heart is aligned, life responds without resistance. The opening appears because nothing blocks it anymore. Stillness invites humility. It acknowledges that control is limited. This humility softens the heart. Softness allows guidance to pass through. What effort guarded against, stillness welcomes. In stillness, the heart remembers that it is supported. Support reduces urgency. Reduced urgency allows clarity. Clarity reveals the next step. The invitation arrives naturally, without demand. Stillness invites what effort cannot, because it removes the one obstacle effort always carries: insistence. When insistence ends, life responds freely. The heart learns that the deepest openings come not through striving, but through quiet alignment with what already is. Walking through the door you never sought begins with surprise rather than intention. The heart recognizes an opening it did not plan for and did not imagine. This recognition feels unfamiliar because it does not match prior desires. Yet there is a quiet resonance that signals alignment. The door does not call loudly, but its presence feels undeniable. This door appears when the heart releases its fixed destination. As long as the mind insists on a specific outcome, other paths remain unseen. When insistence dissolves, perception widens. The heart notices possibilities that were previously dismissed. What was never sought now feels precisely placed. The mind often resists such doors because they disrupt its narrative. They do not align with expectations or strategies. Yet guidance does not obey preference, it obeys readiness. The door opens because the heart has matured, not because the mind requested it. Movement follows recognition rather than desire. Walking through an unsought door requires trust. There is no familiar map to follow. The heart steps forward without guarantees. This trust is not reckless. It is informed by inner clarity. The heart senses coherence even when the mind lacks explanation. These doors often appear ordinary. They do not announce significance. The mind may overlook them at first. Only when the heart pays attention does their importance become clear. Guidance often hides within simplicity, waiting to be recognized rather than pursued. The unsought door rearranges priorities. What once seemed essential loses urgency. New directions feel lighter, less burdened by expectation. The heart experiences relief rather than excitement. This relief is a sign that the path is aligned with truth rather than ambition. Walking through such a door changes the understanding of success. Success becomes harmony instead of achievement. The heart values ease over recognition. The path unfolds without resistance because it was not forced. Movement feels natural and sustained. These doors often lead away from familiar validation. The heart must be willing to walk without applause. Inner certainty replaces external approval. The mind learns to trust alignment more than affirmation. This shift strengthens inner independence. The door you never sought often carries lessons you never requested but deeply needed. It teaches humility, patience, and openness. Growth occurs without strain. The heart becomes quieter, more receptive. Awareness deepens through experience rather than effort. Walking through this door also changes timing. Life slows or accelerates naturally, without pressure. The heart adjusts without resistance. The rhythm feels right, even when unfamiliar. This natural pacing supports clarity and balance. The mind may look back and question why this door was missed before. Yet it becomes clear that readiness was required. The door was present, but perception was narrow. Awareness had to widen before recognition was possible. These unsought doors often connect to deeper purpose. They align the heart with meaning rather than convenience. The path feels grounded even when challenging. Difficulty does not discourage because direction feels true. The heart moves with commitment rather than compulsion. Walking through such a door dissolves regret. Past choices no longer feel wrong. They are understood as preparation. Each step led to this opening. The heart recognizes coherence where it once saw confusion. The unsought door also teaches gratitude. The heart appreciates guidance that exceeds its imagination. What was given surpasses what was desired. This gratitude stabilizes faith and deepens trust. Walking through the door you never sought reveals a profound truth. Guidance does not always follow desire, it follows readiness. When the heart releases its demands, life offers openings beyond expectation. The door appears not because it was searched for, but because the heart became able to walk through it. What opens in your life is not always what the mind asks for, but what the heart is prepared to receive. Doors close, paths disappear, and effort reaches its limit, not to leave you stranded, but to realign you with a deeper order. When the heart softens, when resistance dissolves, and when stillness replaces force, guidance moves freely. The opening that finally appears often feels unfamiliar, yet it carries a quiet certainty that cannot be argued with. In this way, the impossible does not become easy through struggle, but through alignment. What you walk into next is not an accident, and it was never delayed without wisdom. It arrives when the heart is ready to recognize it.